Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead and welcome to Adam-ondi-Ahman. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So now that I've moved to Independence, Missouri, Adam-ondi-Ahman is not that far away, relatively speaking. It only takes about an hour and 20 minutes to get there. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to head up there and go take a look at this site where the Nephitish altar was, which before that would have been Adam's altar, which is not far from Lyman White's house. So right here, this is the Valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. I've shown it before in other videos. I've taken panoramic pictures of this, but this time, this is my second time going there. I'm getting it on film. So hopefully you can, even more than before, appreciate how large it is. I don't know if you've been there before. Let me know in the comments below. But if you get a chance, you should go. The valley is much larger than what you might think. Before I went there for the first time, I thought it was much smaller than that, but it's actually pretty big. So here's the parking area for Tower Hill. There's the new bathrooms over there. They're relatively new, and this is where you park. It's not paved, but it's a nice area. It's well kept. And this is where the trail starts. That takes you to the area where the altar would have been. And I didn't realize this the first time I went, but there's actually a sign that has a picture of it. While we walk over there, I want to read from The Refiner's Fire by President Alvin R. Dyer. He's that special member of the first presidency who, under President David O. McKay, went to Missouri and did various things with the church's sacred sites in Missouri, including Adam-ondi-Ahman. So this is page, if you have this, and this is also on archive.org. You can access this for free. It's on page 129. I'm actually going to add this to my quotes about Adam-ondi-Ahman. The section is called The Altar of Adam-ondi-Ahman. The altar, as described by the prophet Joseph Smith, was on Tower Hill, a name given to one of the more prominent bluffs just above the site of the homestead of Lyman White. And that's key right there. He says that it's above the site of Lyman White's house. And you'll see that in just a minute here as we walk over there. This altar is referred to by the prophet as having been the remains of an old Nephite altar. And then he has an excerpt from History of the Church, Volume 3, May 19th, 1838, Saturday. We pursued our course up the river, mostly through timber, for about 18 miles when we arrived at Colonel Lyman White's home. He lives at the foot of Tower Hill, a name I gave the place in consequence of the remains of an old Nephite altar or tower that stood there, where we camped for the Sabbath. And then that's the end of the excerpt. And by the way, this area that we're getting to right here, I think that this is the area where the altar was. The stones aren't there. There was somebody that left a comment on a video saying that in Refiner's Fire, it talked about the stones being shipped to Salt Lake by train. I was not able to verify that. So if you know what page that's on, the person that put that comment, let me know. But I didn't find it in the book. But you can see the sign back there. It talks about the altar. So I believe that this is the location. And then if you keep going, which we will do, you get to Lyman White's house, which is further down, the hill goes down. And so the altar site would be above Lyman White's house. Back to President Dyer. The above reference identifies this particular altar as one used by the Nephites, who we know occupied this part of the continent. All right, so here's that sign that I was just talking about. And you'll notice that this is a pretty prominent part of the hill. It's pretty high up. It has a very good view of the valley. And here's a picture. It says rock cairn or burial mound as it looked in the 1940s. Again, I don't know what happened to those rocks. Now you can pause and read this if you want to. I'm not going to read it. But yeah, so it seems like this was the location of one of the altars. And then we talked about another altar on Spring Hill. So it seems like there were two altar locations. Let's go ahead and read this. Tower Hill. Latter-day Saints named Tower Hill after the remains of a tower that people had left here in the past. Tower Hill is not actually a separate hill. It is part of the same high ground named Spring Hill by the Latter-day Saints, who discovered fresh springs flowing from the nearby bluff into the Grand River. As they surveyed a plat for a city at Spring Hill in 1838, the plat included Tower Hill. Latter-day Saints learned from the Lord that they should call the city Adam-ondi-Ahman. Joseph Smith had taught about a place named Adam-ondi-Ahman 3 years earlier. He explained that Adam had built an altar there to offer prayer. In the 20th century, archaeologists excavated the remains of a rock cairn near this place. They found it marked a burial mound 1,000 to 1,500 years old. It is not clear from existing historical sources if this burial mound is what gave Tower Hill its name, but it is one possibility. One thing that's not clear to me is that on page 130 of the Refiner's Fire, there's a separate section called Indian Mound Discovered, which seems to be separate and different from the altar of sacrifice, the Nephitish altar of sacrifice. So I don't know if these are two different things in two different locations, but this is what it says. From the Prophet Joseph Smith's record dated Tuesday, May 22nd, 1838, we read the following. I returned to camp in Robinson's Grove and thence went west to obtain some game to supply our necessities. We discovered some antiquities about 1 mile west of the camp consisting of stone mounds, plural, mounds, apparently erected in square piles, though somewhat decayed and obliterated by the weather of many years. These mounds were probably erected by the aborigines of the land to secrete treasures. We returned without game. So these mounds or mound, it sounds like it's separate, but I'm not really too clear at this point. I'm going to finish off what I was reading before in the Refiner's Fire, but you'll notice how from the site of that sign, we're now going downhill the way it was described earlier when we were reading in Refiner's Fire. So that's one of the reasons why I think that that's the right place. But let me just finish this off. It says, from the autobiography of Andrew Jensen, who visited this place in September of 1888, we find the following recorded concerning the altar. Quote, the mound of ruins of the ancient altar on the top of Adam-ondi-Ahman Hill, and there's a hint right there, on the top of Adam-ondi-Ahman Hill, measures 36 feet in diameter. A large number of rock fragments, which were no doubt once a part of the altar, lie scattered all around. So this sign right here indicates the location of Lyman White's house. There's also a marker behind it. Lyman White and the Diamond settlement. This marks the site of Lyman and Harriet Benton White's second house along the Grand River. The Whites were among the first Latter-day Saint settlers in this area. Lyman White operated a ferry nearby. In May 1838, Joseph Smith, the first president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, came to visit Lyman White at his home. The church was growing, and church leaders hoped to purchase inexpensive land where poor Latter-day Saints could gather. When they saw the beauty and potential of this place, Latter-day Saints began laying out a city inland from the Grand River of White's Ferry. The Lord revealed the name of the city to be Adam-ondi-Ahman, and its settlers gave it the nickname Diamond. Within weeks of surveying the town, dozens of log homes were under construction. Joseph Smith organized a stake of Zion here on June 28, 1838, with his uncle John Smith as president and Lyman White and Reynolds Cahoon as his counselors. Then, even more quickly than the community appeared, it was gone. In early November, Missouri militiamen ordered all Latter-day Saints to leave the county. Lyman, Harriet, and others at Diamond joined over 8,000 people who were driven from Missouri during the winter of 1838 to 1839. All right, and then here's a picture of their home. And, it makes me wonder if the Whites and everybody else that started to build their homes in Adam-ondi-Ahman, if they're going to have their inheritances there again. Is this right here, the site of Lyman White's house, is this reserved for him? If so, he has a prime piece of real estate because it has a great view of the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. When you just turn around, you can see the valley back there. It doesn't help with the trees in the way, but you have this like little sliver right here where you can see it. And I'd be happy if they did still have this inheritance. I don't know how everything's going to go down. At some point, and I suppose that this is going to be after the millennium, once the earth becomes a celestial world, everyone's going to receive their physical inheritance on the celestial earth. And I mean, you have to think back to the time of Adam and Eve and their children, grandchildren, and all the generations that followed that also lived in this area. So, who knows? We'll see how it all goes. In the meantime, however, we can all go to these historic church sites, and I hope that you do. A lot of times we talk about being in holy places, and of course that would include the temple, your home, going to church, going to stake activities. But I think it would also include the historic church sites. You can feel the spirit very strongly there. It's almost like a temple-like experience. Like, don't substitute this for the temple, but this is a great place to pray. It's a great place to meditate. It's a great place to have special family experiences. So I would make sure to go to the places near you. After that, if you have the time and the money, come here to Missouri. Go to Salt Lake. Go to Winter Quarters in Nebraska. Or, wherever the church sites are, they're all over the place. In addition to feeling the spirit, you also become more connected to these places. They become more real to you. I've been a lifelong member, and I've always known about Adam-ondi-Ahman in Independence, Missouri, in Liberty Jail, and all these places. At the time, I only had access to Salt Lake and all the sites there. I would always go to Temple Square, Joseph Smith Memorial Building, Ensign Peak, and just everywhere. The This is the Place monument. But places like Far West, Independence, Adam-ondi-Ahman, Hans Mill, they've always just been kind of like an abstraction to me. And when you actually go there, it becomes very, very real. And I think it does have an impact on you. I feel like the spirit that I felt there kind of called out to me and my family, and we started playing around with the idea of moving to Missouri. And now here we are. That didn't happen until we went to the church sites. When we moved to Kansas, I didn't want to move anymore. Or if we did move, just move somewhere close, but not do another, long move. This one was relatively short. It was only 4 hours compared to 10 hours, 15 hours. The several moves that we did before were no less than 10 hours. But we came to the sites, felt the spirit, prayed about it, had special experiences that prompted us to think about this. And I'm very glad that we're here. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do that. There is no general call to move to Missouri or Ohio or, Iowa or something like that. Although there are a number of people that have felt prompted to move this way. And I think that that's great. So just follow the promptings of the Spirit. But all I'm trying to say is that when you go to these sacred church sites, you have no idea how they may impact you. I've talked to people that have said that they felt called to move to Ohio after going to the Kirtland Temple. When we went there for the eclipse, that was a very powerful experience. Even if it wasn't for the eclipse, just going to the temple right after it was purchased by the church was very special. To go through there with our missionaries giving the tours, not that I knew what it was like before that, but I know that there was a difference. I could definitely feel the spirit in the Kirtland Temple. So I think it's good also for your children or grandchildren to help them learn about the church and church history and also feel the spirit. It's a really good family activity. Let me just read you one thing from the David O. McKay Diaries on the University of Virginia's website for Mormon studies. This is after he visited the sites in Missouri, but this excerpt from his diary is after he went to Far West. It says, President McKay seemed pleased and elated at the fact that the church owns 80 acres at Far West, including the dedicated temple site. He was visibly affected in the reflections of that which had transpired at this hallowed and sacred place, designated by the Lord as consecrated and most holy. President McKay visibly felt the impact of the sacredness of this spot and so expressed himself upon that occasion and has since expressed himself concerning it. And when you read through this section of the David O. McKay diary excerpts about Missouri, this comes up time and time again, just how affected he was by visiting these sites. I'm sure it'll have the same impact on you whenever you go. And if you have already gone, regardless of what the site was, please let me know in the comments. Share your experience and the spirit that you felt and share your testimony. But we're going to finish up here. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour. I just wanted to quickly hop over to Adam-ondi-Ahman and see that area again where the altar might be. There's still a lot more research that I need to do. I know that there's other resources out there for me to look at. Oh yeah, here's the thing. It shows the different sites: Independence, Liberty Jail, Far West, Hans Mill, Richmond Pioneer Cemetery, which I haven't been there, but I'm sure that I'll get there soon. So yeah, you can expect more Adam-ondi-Ahman videos as I find more. I'll keep collecting these quotes, adding them to my spreadsheets. I'm sure I'm going to make many more trips to Adam-ondi-Ahman. I know that there's these different areas here, Spring Hill, which I've kind of been there, and then the Valley Overlook. I have not been there yet, but I will take you with me just in case you aren't able to actually come this way. Then we'll just do it together here on YouTube. In the meantime, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.